Let's talk about the running backs. Ben, the guys at the top of our rankings right now, we have Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Chase Edmonds. How do you see the top of the running back position this week?
Yeah, I think Cook and Kamara definitely belong. Um, and obviously, if Christian McCaffrey's healthy and good to go, I mean, for me, it would be a pretty clear top three, which would include McCaffrey. He returned to a pretty significant, share of the work, caught a bunch of passes. He's obviously banged up. We don't know if he's going to play or not. And then the other guy I think I might take over Edmonds if McCaffrey is out is Aaron Jones. We talked about the 14-point home favorite line for Green Bay. Jones played plenty when he came back this week. I think he's, certainly looked healthy enough, and that was on Thursday night. He's got 10 days to get right since, from that point forward. Got to really like him at home against the Jacksonville run D.
Yeah, Ben, really good point about McCaffrey. People should be sure to monitor his injury status as we progress throughout the week. If he ends up being healthy, if he practices in full on Friday, say, then I imagine he will be in our top three by the time we adjust our rankings. And yeah, Aaron Jones certainly in the top five for us. Who besides Aaron Jones and some of the guys you mentioned there, are you relatively high on, do you think, next to the consensus?
Yeah, I mean, Edmonds is another one that you got to love. You mentioned he played 96% of the snaps, just a monster role. But beyond sort of these top guys, I'm really hoping we finally get Duke Johnson, in this workhorse role. We've talked about it for, it feels like 2 decades. He actually pretty much played like a workhorse this week. David Johnson went out early, only played 11% of the snaps, and Duke was in there for 81% of the snaps. He caught, I believe it was 4 passes. He got a 1-yard touchdown run. So he was, being used in all the different phases of the game that you like to see. And now you have this high total spot at Cleveland, revenge game narrative. You got to love Duke Johnson if he gets the chance to start, if David Johnson can't come back from that concussion. And then with stealing signals, I'm kind of digging into, a lot of the deeper trends, a couple kind of stealing signals-y guys this week to watch. Well, really one. The other one's kind of a long shot, but it would not surprise me if DeAndre Washington played the full Gaskin role in his first game with the Dolphins. It was pretty surprising to see Salvon Ahmed, a rookie UDFA, lead the team in snaps. They just do not seem to like Jordan Howard at all. We've kind of got that impression all season. They didn't use Patrick Laird very much. And I suspect if Washington is, he wasn't able to be activated last week because of the COVID protocols. If he's able to be activated this week, I suspect that it might mean that Ahmed is deactivated. You got to keep an eye out on Matt Breida as well, who had a hamstring injury. But if Breida's not healthy, or even if he's starting, but it seems like he's going to still be in kind of a limited role, it would not be all that surprising to see Washington in his first game with Miami playing over 50% of the snap. So that's one that I'm monitoring the practice reports throughout the week. He could be kind of a cheap DFS guy. And then the other one that I threw out there was Ryan Nall. We don't know what's going to happen with David Montgomery's concussion as well, but after he left, Ryan Nall kind of played as the running back. And earlier in the year, when Tariq Cohen went down, Cordero Patterson's package didn't really expand. They just gave David Montgomery all those snaps. It seems like he's sort of just the gadget player. They're not necessarily going to expand him. So there's a possibility that we get Ryan Nall min-priced as, a home dog against Minnesota, but a reasonable play at such a cheap price who probably could catch some passes. He caught 4 passes late this past week.
I love both of those calls, Washington especially, but I mean, Null. I mean, anytime you talk to me about a fullback who has the opportunity of playing some running back and a guy who produced in college, like actually had legit running back production in college, and as you say, he caught passes in the fourth quarter there and was actually a pretty decent receiving back in college. So I think has a better skill set than people would anticipate for someone who now is, quote unquote, just a fullback. He's someone who actually is intriguing, and we have no idea how that role is going to play out. So there's some potential there. Raybon, I'm kicking it to you first for running backs. Who do you like?
Well, first of all, I think at the top of the board, you're getting Aaron Jones 11K cheaper than Kamara and 19K cheaper than Christian McCaffrey. Against that Jags run defense, Jones very well could be the number one running back on the slate this week. So I love him on the high end. And on the low end, this is another one that's kind of in the vein of what Ben was talking about in that Chargers Miami game on the Miami side, but on the Chargers side, depending on, the status of Justin Jackson and the status of Troy Maine Pope, we might get a Kalen Ballage revenge game. He played over Joshua Kelly. They seem to kind of want to leave Joshua Kelly in this like certain role that, it's like 30 to 40% of the work. And, whoever's in there is going to split the rest of it. So if those two guys are out, fully behind this Ballage revenge game in Miami.
Guys, if Duke Johnson goes off in a revenge game and Kalen Ballage goes off in a revenge game in the same week, I'm going to be very satisfied.
Hey, don't forget the JD McKissick revenge game, Washington and Detroit.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
So we got 3, and they're all priced back to back. They're all literally 50, 50, 49. You could get all 3 in on a running back flex.
Oh, this is too good. Sean, who are you high on?
So I'm going back to the Chase Edmonds well this week. I'm sure a lot of people are, but last week he was pretty chalky and he underperformed, I would say, despite seeing 25 carries. So he's going to see a massive workload again. And he ran around on 75% dropbacks, which was actually a little bit higher than I was even projecting. So I mean, he has massive ceiling at this kind of usage. So I'm going to stick with him this week. And hopefully people jump off the train a little bit too early here. But the other guy is JD McKissick. And, I get to add in that hashtag revenge game narrative as well. So thanks, Raybon. But, he ran a route on 76% of the dropbacks, saw 13 targets, 9 receptions. I don't exactly expect that kind of production again this week. But, Alex Smith loves dumping it off to him. And this was clear when Alex Smith came in, I believe it was week 5. I mean, JD McKissick was targeted 5 times and he was responsible for 27 of Alex Smith's 37 passing yards. So he loves dumping it off to JD McKissick. So I think this could be a trend we see going forward with Alex Smith under center. And, with Alex Smith under center going forward, I think it's, slam dunk right now that he's going to win comeback play of the year. But, we should see a similar game script this week. So I don't see any reason why McKissick won't be heavily used in the passing game. So I love him on a full PPR site like DK at $4,900 bucks.
McKissick about to get that Jamal Charles passing game usage. It's going to be something to behold. And Sean, I'm with you on Edmonds. I have him ranked number 1, which I mean, honestly, might be. I mean, I'll say it's aggressive. I know it feels aggressive, but given the usage he had last week, and the fact that they're home favorites, it's a high scoring game, a high total. And that matchup going against the Bills defense that literally is dead last in PFF run grade. If we see Edmonds get something close to the usage that he got last week, I mean, I think he could totally smash because he really is the only back there that they are going with. I mean, you could see how Aaron Jones easily ends up as the number 1 back on the slate. That's, I mean, something that you could see happening. But at the same time, you have Jamal Williams there who could steal some of those carries in a blowout game. If there's a blowout, I mean, I think it's Chase Edmonds as the guy who massively benefits. So I am very high on him this week. Ben, who is someone that you are low on?
I'll take James Robinson. Love him. He's been fantastic, in any kind of season-long sense that he was basically free this offseason, and then certainly been great for DFS as well. But we didn't see him catch a pass last week. He did get targeted twice. But, Raybon hit on it. Jake Luton was throwing downfield a lot more, that 8.5 yard average throw depth. And then Minshew's been about a yard lower all season, and particularly loves to just kind of dump it off in those late game situations. And so what's interesting with Robinson is he's been racking up quite a bit of catches for a guy who's actually not running a ton of routes as a percentage of dropbacks most of the time. And I think a lot of that had to do with these dump offs in late game situations. And then in week 7, his routes jumped way up to 69% of dropbacks with Chris Thompson out, but Thompson came back last week. Robinson's routes per drop back down to 51%. Still, a solid share for a number 1 running back, but certainly not the high number that we've been seeing. And now with Luton in at quarterback, and you talk about, okay, he's a 2 touchdown road dog. So the rushing opportunity might not be where we're hoping it to be. I just don't really love the whole scenario for him.
Raybon, who are you low on?
Going with the San Francisco backs this week. That's kind of a hard backfield to determine on a week-to-week basis. Jarrett McKinnon played ahead of JaMychal Hasty last week, but this Saints defense is up to number 4 in run defense DVOA. And, we saw the Bucs essentially have to abandon the run game completely against them last week. And they are 10-point favorites in this one. And, it's just so hard to predict what's going to happen in Shanahan's backfield. One week it's McKinnon, 1 week it's Hasty. Next time McKinnon's got tired legs. So I think that's just going to be a risky situation all season. Maybe even, Mostert comes back. So it's just going to be really tough to figure out. So I'm off the San Fran backs.
Sean, who do you dislike?
Well, I dislike Devin Singletary this week and sort of going forward. He's my running back 31. So, he's outside of the RB2 value and more of a flex sit start decision where I'm leaning towards the sit in all formats. I mean, he hit rock bottom last week. He saw 2 carries for 1 yard. Zach Moss seems to be taking over more of the early down work. And, Singletary, he's been getting it a bit more of the passing down work, but, 48% routes run per dropback with Josh Allen's QB is, 2 to 3 catches a week kind of production you're going to get. He's not really going to see goal line work between Zach Moss and Josh Allen. He's sort of the third wheel in that regard. So, going forward, Devin Singletary's value has, fallen significantly over the past couple weeks. And the other guys, I'm not low on them because I love the matchup and I love them literally, is Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. I mean, they're both 6,800 this week. And, I just think when they're both active, it really lowers their floor and ceiling. So it's hard to really pick one. I'm expecting Nick Chubb to return this week. If for some reason he's out again, Kareem Hunt will be, a free square against this Texans defense. But just with them both active, it's hard to trust either one, despite the, dream matchup this week against the Texans.
All right, one guy I am low on, and I want to contextualize it a little bit, is James Conner. I have him at number 10, so it's not as if I'm really all that low on him. But thinking if Roethlisberger is out because of the knee or because of the COVID situation, I think it will be a tough game for Conner. I think there will be fewer touchdown opportunities. We kind of saw that that Pittsburgh offense last year when it was shackled to a quarterback other than Ben Roethlisberger. And it just wasn't a situation that overall was positive for really anyone in the offense. So if in fact we do see Ben Roethlisberger out this week, there kind of might be this narrative of, hey, there are going to be more carries for James Conner. And that actually might end up being the case. But I think we've kind of seen that story play out recently with Ezekiel Elliott, where a quarterback is out and it looks like, okay, let's pivot to the running back. And that just ends up not being something that's fruitful. I could see that with James Conner. So something just to keep in mind. I still like him, but more as a low end running back one instead of what I think will probably be more of a consensus-y, like mid-range RB1 ranking for him. Sean, give us the running back player prop.
So I love this one because a guilty pleasure of mine is projecting running backs that are just going ballistic. If you recall, during the playoffs last year, I think it was, we were debating Derrick Henry's prop of being like 120 to 130 rushing yards. So this week we're going with Dalvin Cook, who's coming off 163 yard and now a 206 yard rushing game. So I don't even know if I could set this line high enough, but I'll try. Fortunately, he's playing the Bears, who might be able to slow him down, but I have his rushing projection right now at 96.5.
I will take the under. I have it at 94.5. So we're very close.
I'll go under as well. I'm always going to be the guy that fades rushing efficiency, especially long runs. He's hit on some big ones. Dalvin Cook is so good at football, though. It's really hard to take the under on anything with this guy.
I have it at 98. So Friedman's 2 yards under. I'm 2 yards over. But hey, man, this is one of those games where you don't expect it to get away from Minnesota on the other side. Like, you don't expect Chicago to put up a ton of points, which a lot of teams have actually done on Minnesota, uncharacteristically, for them. But when that's the case, they run even more. And so I think, Cook, maybe he's not quite as efficient, but I actually think he could be above his cat, right? He could be in that same range that he's been in the last 2 weeks, where he's averaged 26 carries. Like I think he could get there again just because of the game script. Chicago's not going to, run away with the game.